What is up, Firebenders? FirePhoenixKing here today, and today I want to talk about the sequel to Breath of the Wild and Breath of the Wild in general. First, I want to talk about a quote that Eiji Aonuma stated, and which is about the Zelda timeline. Because it's very interesting. Now, what he said was that we realized that people were enjoying imagining the story that emerged from the fragmentary imagery we were providing. If we defined a restricted timeline, there would be a definitive story, and it would eliminate the room for imagination, which wouldn't be as fun. Now, with that being said, what it translates to is that they don't care about the timeline at this part, and they've always stated that the timeline never existed, but it was only after that the fans kind of, manifested the timeline and made it real, that they were playing along. But in terms of Nintendo, they've always stated that they make the game first, they make the gameplay, and then story after. And this would align with that. Now, if we're gonna go based on that comment that Eiji Aonuma stated, I will go ahead and play along and bite. But I will say that this is a theory video and an opinion video, so obviously this isn't concrete facts because I don't have Breath of the Wild 2 or the Breath of the Wild sequel, so I don't know what's gonna happen. But this, of course, is gonna be my opinion, my theory for what's gonna happen with the series, because I feel like this is somewhat of a reboot or a soft reboot for the series. Breath of the Wild is the first of its kind in the Legend of Zelda series. Not only is it open world, but you can do whatever you want, how you want to do it, and that is awesome. There are other games that, to Nintendo's words, is they wanted to do this from the beginning, which of course, like the Legend of Zelda, they wanted to do this, but with technical limitations, they weren't able to fully execute the idea. But of course, depending on how you play that game, it definitely does feel familiar, because you can pretty much have fun with that game in a similar way like you can with any other Zelda game, if you're a Zelda fan. If not, get off this video. JK, let's carry on. So, if we're talking about Breath of the Wild, I really do think it's going to be a series of its own. If we take Eiji Aonuma's words and really think about them and really implement them into this, Eiji Aonuma stating that, it's going to be up to us because of the imagination. Okay, let's start from the beginning then. Breath of the Wild is a game where 100 years ago, Link and Zelda lose the battle against Calamity Ganon, and the 4 champions also lose their lives. To short story short, if you want to see the whole video, the whole story about it, there are other videos about it, but let's go back into it. So they lose, and 100 years later, flash to the present day, where you pick up the controller to play as Link. You get woken up in this resurrection shrine, and you go to the wild and have that fresh breath of air, and behold, Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. That's why it's called like that. So you go out to the wild, and interestingly enough, you get met with King of Hyrule. And again, I'm not gonna explain the story, but this game is all about reconstruction and finding yourself again and making sure you are good, and you will save Zelda. And after overcoming so many challenges and gathering a lot of Korok poop, you will then go to Ganon and face him and kill him, essentially. But then, of course, as we all Zelda fans know, there's, the first boss fight's never the last one. So then the second phase comes in, turns into Dark Beast Ganon. Dark Beast Ganon gets put to sleep immediately by Link, featuring Zelda. Then Zelda finishes the work by summoning the entire Triforce in her hand and obliterating Dark Beast Ganon. And I have a question about that, because if Zelda is using the entire Triforce, isn't the entire Triforce more powerful than anything in the universe? But again, if she's just using just the Triforce of Wisdom, then why are all the pieces glowing up? Not my problem, but of course we'll leave it to my imagination. In my imagination, I don't know where the Triforce comes in, but I see it glowing up in my imagination. I think that Calamity Ganon is more stronger than the Triforce, since the Triforce is all glowing up in Zelda's hand. And according to the last scene we see here, obliterates Calamity Ganon, so I guess Triforce is still stronger than Calamity Ganon. Anyway, going back to the story, Zelda then asks Link if Link remembers her. Link doesn't say anything as normal, and the game ends. And of course, if you got all the memories, you get treated to a cool cutscene that Zelda tells Link that, you know, it's time to rebuild. They're gonna go ahead and make some tweaks to the divine beasts, and to kind of just let people know, hey, we're back, we're not dead, let's rebuild Hyrule. What a beautiful story. Except that Nintendo loves to tease, and they drop the most hype trailer of 2019 during E3 by showing us a dark, creepy cavern. There's a literally picture of someone riding a horse with a trident, and we've seen that before because Ganon wields a trident. But if that's Ganon on a horse, that'd be pretty cool. A pig riding a horse, never seen that, looking forward to that. But if we're looking more into the trailer, we see some green glowy stuff going to our faces. We see Zelda riding a rhino. We see Link and Zelda looking at something which is essentially a dead body. We see the Malice come back, eat the rats. We see them cross a bridge. We see them looking at essentially that dead body. And if we look at that dead body, as the camera is panning up, we see long hair, and we see a green hand that is stopping the darkness coming out of that body. Really weird, but Link then takes it for whatever reason, or if not, gets chosen by it, and a quick sequence of flash scenes happen, and we see the dead body looking at Zelda, lighting the eyes up, and now is raising Hyrule Castle up. But if we go ahead and slow things down a bit, look at a couple of these scenes. You know, first, when the body turns and essentially lights up his eyes, those are very beastie eyes, you know what I mean? Those aren't normal eyes. We also see the yellow kind of thing on the forehead, which also, for the record, also Calamity Ganon does have in the spider form a thing with that, so it could be that this is the actual body of Ganondorf. And we see the necklace, which is actually a Gerudo symbol, and so makes me more to believe that this is in fact Ganondorf, or at least the body of Ganondorf left behind. And if we're gonna take Eiji Aonuma seriously and say that this is all up to imagination, my imagination here is that something happened with his body, whether it be he sacrificed himself to become this Calamity Ganon, and then of course lost against Zelda, or something killed him and then he became the Calamity Ganon, looking to embody something to come back to this world. But again, we don't have any details in terms of this game, so we can't really go on a limb here and say specifics. But I will say that if it's up to my imagination, there is something really fishy about this dead body, and we do not have confirmation of who it is, so we can't sit here and be like, oh yep, that's Ganondorf or that's Demise. But interestingly enough, we have a little frame here that you see kind of like a being getting struck by something, and you see that hand again. And interestingly enough, you see the malice coming out, of course, of that body. And interestingly enough, again, we don't know who this is, but that long hair does remind me of Demise. But what would Demise be doing here if the timeline doesn't exist, according to Aonuma? So if, according to Aonuma, not that it doesn't exist, let me correct my words, it doesn't matter in this series in terms of Breath of the Wild. And if it doesn't matter, then that could really well be Ganondorf in body form. Something happened prior to all of this, and in the sequel, which Nintendo has more graciously has stated that the sequel to The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild is now in development. They openly stated that. No one does that unless they want to know it's a sequel. It's definitely going to be a sequel. It's not going to be one of those, hey, you're Link in Breath of the Wild 2, but you don't remember what happened in Breath of the Wild 1. If they do that, that that to me is not really a true sequel. But that's my opinion. That's just my opinion. If you don't agree with that, that's fine. But if they are really going out of the way to say that the sequel to The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild is now in development, I will think about it as a sequel. And again, going based off of Eiji Aonuma's word on that the timeline, they're not bothering with the timeline in terms of Breath of the Wild. It's all up to our imagination as players. I think that's unique. I think that's cool, because people like me that like to overthink this type of things can make up a story. I'm making up my own story right now, and I'm not afraid to say this. I honestly think this is gonna be a trilogy, because we got the Breath of the Wild game all about reconstruction, loss, and grief, and all that stuff, and at the end it ends with Zelda and Link really trying to make peace with everyone, letting everyone know, hey, we're here, let's reconstruct Hyrule. It would be awesome to see the sequel take place in Hyrule, but with more towns, more human NPCs, more interactions with other stuff. I think that would be pretty cool. Maybe we see more technology advances, we see boats. However, I don't know what the timeline placement in terms of that sequel is. I don't know if it's 5 hours after the defeat of Ganon. I don't know if it's 2 hours, 2 minutes, a week, 2 years. You get the point. Zelda hair is short, so I'm hoping for some type of gameplay with Zelda. That would be awesome, and that would be really cool to play as Zelda in the sequel. But that's kind of my opinion on it. I think that it's going to be a trilogy, because I feel like they're treating Breath of the Wild like a series, almost like its own type of series besides of the other Zelda games. The other Zelda games were tied to a storyline due to technological restrictions, and now that they have more type of better technology, which I really should think that Nintendo should invest on Nintendo Switch Pro, but that is another video for another day. But now that they have this completely different Zelda game, why wouldn't they invest in this series? Why would they not continue this series? Not only was Breath of the Wild Game of the Year, but it won so many awards. It reminded me of when Ocarina of Time launched, and it got praises all over the world. This is our new Zelda game. This is the new series. They already stated that they'd love to work on Breath of the Wild. It was extensive work, but to them, they will continue, because, you know, remember, I don't know if y'all remember, but when they were saying something along the lines that this would be the new way of Zelda games going forward, especially if fans loved it, and due to majority fans loving it, this may be the beginning of a new series for the series. Does that make sense? A series within a series? But anyway, what do you guys think? Am I too crazy? Am I overthinking? I know I'm crazy. What do you guys think? What is your make-believe story? What is happening in Breath of the Wild in your mind? Because right now, I have so many questions still in Breath of the Wild that are not being answered, even in Masterwork, the Masterwork book. And I have so many questions, and I feel like if this is truly a series, we're gonna get more answers in the other games. Breath of the Wild 2 may be about Ganondorf. The first game, it was all about Zelda and what happened and why she couldn't get her power, because Link already had the Master Sword, so it's not like he didn't do his part. But it was all about Zelda. The second game might be about Ganondorf. The third game might be about Link. Maybe we'll see a sacrifice, or maybe we'll see something very different. But Breath of the Wild definitely set a tone for the series, and I would like them to keep it that way. But again, this is just speculation, theory. I don't have any other information besides the teaser trailer for the Breath of the Wild sequel, which I'm very excited for. But again, what do you guys think? Leave me your Breath of the Wild interpretation. What is happening in your side of things? Is this connected to the timeline? Is this not? Is Link and Zelda gonna do something? I don't know, if they get married or something. Whatever your imagination is, let me know. I want to hear it. But other than that, Firebender's subscribe. Thank you guys so much for the love, and thank you guys so much for stopping on my Twitch. I appreciate it. We play Super Smash Bros. Ultimate while commentating. It's really fun. A lot of you really enjoy it right now, so if you guys want to participate in that, go ahead and jump onto Twitch, FirePhoenixKing Live, and give me a follow. Other than that, have a great day, Firebenders, and keep rocking The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. Definitely fun. I'm gonna go back and keep over analyzing the sequel to the Breath of the Wild teaser trailer. You guys have a good day. Bye bye.